take a closer look at our script window. So as a reminder, if you do not have a script, you can click File, New File in RScript, or you can click this button right underneath the file and click RScript, and that will give us a script. It's easier to type the code we need in the script window than individually in the console window. It allows us to edit things if we make mistakes, and in addition, it allows us to save what we typed. If we only type in the console window, we will not be able to save our work. So we do want to type things in our script window. I'm going to start by looking at how to define variables. There's actually two ways we can do this. We can use an equal sign, so if I say something like x is equal to 4, and now if I hit enter, you'll notice that nothing happens. And that's because we have to hit this run button at the top, and it will run the line that our mouse is on. So we have to make sure the mouse is on the correct line and click the run, and we get x is equal to 4 at the bottom. In addition, in our environment, we can see the value of x has this assignment of 4. If I just type in x and click run, it will now output the number 4. It lets us see what the value of x is. We can also use an arrow pointing to the variable to assign a variable. So I can say a is -2. If I run that, in my environment, I can see I have the variable a, and it is assigned to the number -2. And I can use these variables in various things. If I want to say x times a, click my run button, and it outputs -8. I can also assign variables to operations. So let's say I want to assign the number b to 34.3 times 12.5. If we click run, you'll notice at the bottom it tells us exactly what we ran. In our environment tab, we can see the actual value, but if we type a b and click run, it'll also display it in our console window. And we can use these, like I said, in various things. I can do 0.25 times b and click run, and I can see its output. So once we define a variable, we can use it again in calculations. We can also redefine it. If I want to change b to now 34.5 times 12.5, we can do that. If I click run, it will now overwrite that value of b. Another thing we can do is create vectors. And the idea of a vector is it's just a set of data. So anytime we want to use something later on, we're going to need to give it a name. So I'm going to call this one name. I'm going to use C, and C is my command for a vector or a list. It technically stands for the word concatenation, but it's basically just a list. And now I'm going to give it my list of names. Anytime we use names or text that we want to stay as text and not as variables, we need to put it between quotation marks. And my names are going to be Sean, Brad, Tony, Jenny, and Mark. If I run this, I can now see name over here on my side. CHR stands for character because these are made with characters. 1 to 5 tells me the length. I have 5 names, and then I can see the list of my names. If I just run the command name, I can see it output at the bottom my list of names. Now, let's suppose that I do want to associate each of these people with a height. So I'm going to give it height. I'm still going to use C because it's still a list. And I'm going to start entering their height in inches. Sean is 70 inches, Brad is 72, Tony is 70 inches, Jenny is 63, and Mark is 71. If I run this, I can now see height. It's a list of numbers, and I have my list of numbers. A lot of times when we're entering variables like this, we need to link them. Having the name and the height can be helpful, but being able to link them so that I can actually have R identify that Sean goes with that 70, Brad goes with the 72, Tony goes with 70, Jenny goes with 63, and Mark goes with 71 can be very helpful. So I'm going to give this a new name. I'm going to call this my data set because it's what I am going to be using. And I'm going to use a command called data.frame. And then I'm going to input name, comma, height. I'm going to have the name as my first column, my height as my second one. And if I click run, I can now see my data set. I have 5 observations of 2 variables. If I try to display data set, we can now see that I have the name and the height and that they are linked.